Good evening and welcome to the first show of Beyond the Front Page for the spring 2020 semester here at Keeler Community College. This is a show that's broadcast on Spectrum, Verizon, Fios, and oddly enough, the Auburn Regional Media Access, ARMA, which we'll be talking about for most of the next 28 minutes, as well as Win 89.1, the college's radio station. I'm your host, Guy Cosentino. One of the ways this show is broadcast, specifically on the weekends, is through Spectrum and Verizon, Fios, is through the Auburn Regional Media Access, better known as ARMA. It's located downtown in the Auburn Public Theater that is going through some major renovations right now. And we've asked the leadership of ARMA to come up here to talk about what they do, how they operate, and how the community in general can take part in their work. And so we're delighted to have their president, Bob Penafeather, back with us. Steve Keeler, who many of you know, not only in his role as the vice president of ARMA, but he also directs this college's telecom and media program, and their treasurer, Carey Eidel, who is not only an adjunct here at the college, but also has many connections to the Auburn Public Theater. Gentlemen, welcome back. Delighted to have you here.
Thank you for having us, especially with Carey.
So I'm not sure how long we're going to get to go through all this, but so some basics for those who may not. I know we did a show about 2 years ago,
Yes.
and I think you were on. I went back. It looks like about 4 years ago. What is cable public access for those who may not know the general term?
Well, public access is referred to as PEG access. It means public, education, and government. And what it does is it gives those three entities access to television so that any member of the public, any educational organization, and government entities can air programming on a cable system.
So we're going to mainly talk about the P and the PEG because educational would be what you broadcast from here through there, and then obviously government is ARMA shows
the city council meetings as an example.
Legislature.
So PEG access is in law. The Federal Communications Commission, through the Communications Act of 1984, gives franchising authorities the right to require a cable company to provide channels for public education and governmental use. The franchising authority doesn't have to do it, but they have the right to do it under law. So the City of Auburn, in its last franchise agreement, established a PEG channel. So the PEG channel, which is ARMA, is both public education and government access. That's why you see the college's programs on there. That's why you see the city council meetings and county legislature meetings on there. So the city required it, and then the city took another step forward at that time, and they required the funding of a center where the public could have access to equipment and create their own shows.
So a couple of years ago, there was the start to create a studio and have equipment and all that. But before we get to that, for those who may not know, two things. What is ARMA? By the way, what does ARMA stand for?
Auburn Regional Media Access.
Okay, and what is ARMA itself?
ARMA itself is, in short, your local TV station that encompasses Cuyahoga County and it goes out to Port Byron. Well, anybody can view it. You know, Fleming and Owasco and the area can view it. But the ones that can utilize it and utilize the studio and the equipment, they can produce their own shows. Anybody can produce their own shows, whether it be sports, whether it be local government and the public schools.
So you have Ormy King.
Ormy King,
broadcast on
that's
there.
Yes. And
Steve Gay.
I've had a couple of shows on there, and we have a studio that we built, and it's ongoing. We're updating the equipment right now down in the Auburn Public Theater building.
So this is located down there. So is the main function to broadcast or to develop programming?
Well, it's both. The channel's purpose is to broadcast programming by public educational and government entities. The facility is there to allow people, to give people access to equipment in order to create programs. So what we're really talking about with ARMA are citizen producers, people who are residents of the city of Auburn, can produce their own shows. And what ARMA does is ARMA provides them the facility to produce those shows and then provides the channel where the shows can be broadcast.
So ARMA acts as the city's public access channel.
Right.
What about, so there are other agreements with Spectrum and Fios, Verizon Fios, outside the city, so Owasco, Senate, those other, can they participate in ARMA as well?
They can view, anybody can view ARMA.
But how about renting
But they
equipment?
can't do it because they
Okay.
sign their own, they come to their own agreement, contractual agreement, separately. Fleming did their own, Owasco did their own with both of the providers.
And when does the city's agreements with both of these end, or are they ongoing?
It's going to be 2023 to 2022 to 23 is when the...
So literally, because I was looking at one of the first stories that ran on the studio downtown, and it's December 2012, so it's a 10-year contract.
It's actually a 15-year
15
contract.
So what about the towns and the villages? Can they, you would want them to sign off on this because it would get you more funding.
Right.
When are their contracts up?
It varies.
Yeah.
Are you in any
Yeah.
conversation with them to see if they would?
We have been in the past. I don't
Yeah.
think we're currently in conversation
No,
with them.
I've
but
mentioned it in a couple of places with a couple of people in both Fleming and Owasco, for an example. And the interest level wasn't really high, but I think once they see the advantage and the attributes of...
Oh, it took forever for the library district to expand in some of
No,
those.
I mean,
Not
yeah,
necessarily
yeah,
that
yeah,
one,
yeah.
but in some of these other, Fleming, for example, it took a while.
None of this stuff moves fast. You know, right now we have some 6,000 subscribers, and that goes all the way out to Wheatsport area.
So you're a not-for-profit.
Right.
Yes.
Do you appoint your own members, or are you appointed by another group, like the city council or something like that? Who appoints your members to your
Our board. Steve, Carey, and I have been involved in this from the get-go. So it was created. We were asked by the city to start a negotiation way back when it was
John
Adelphia.
Salomon.
Yeah, I mean, you know, to do the contract or
Talking about a long time ago. city
long time
managers.
ago. Yeah, well, as it was pointed out to me by Tim Lattimore, he picked one person for the board, and that was me, to
Okay.
be on the committee, rather, at that time. He says it'd only be for a few months. That was April of 2004. So if I ever see him again, I'll kill him. But he said, but that's where it all started.
So
And
who's
then-
on your board now?
Well, you have
It's the three of you.
the three of us. Then you have. Why you got to ask that?
Well, no, but let me ask you this
Pat
way: do you
Mochler-
appoint your own members?
Yes,
or
we appoint
they're
our-
not
yes.
government appointees.
They're not
No,
government
that's
appointees.
what I'm
no.
asking. Okay.
And in fact, the model for most public access facilities is that once the franchising authority, in this case the City of Auburn, decides to have a public access group, it becomes a 501
not-for-profit. so
C3
you can-
nonprofit
Okay.
that receives its funding from the city through the fee that the cable company pays for the rights to be the cable company.
So is that your main source of revenue? Is that
Right.
fee? How much is that in a given year? Any idea?
It's a very small percentage. It probably averages about 10% of what the city collects on franchise fee from the.
No, but for what's your budget in a given year? Because I'm assuming most of that money comes from this
well,
fee.
Yeah, most of the money comes from the fee. It's something, is it like 6 cents a subscriber? It's something very low.
Okay.
So I guess what's really important is for the citizens of Auburn.
When I look at my
to know.
Spectrum bill, that's
Right.
not what I'm looking at.
Right.
No.
But also just
you
so
won't
they
see it.
just so
No,
they,
but that's not what I'm mumbling about
Right.
Oh.
when I see my Spectrum bill.
Right.
Well, I was just going to say that I think it's important to understand that the citizens of Auburn don't fund
Right,
ARMA
so you're-
through the budget.
Right.
They are actually, it's the cable company that's getting 6 cents for each subscriber, whatever, and it adds up to, however, 30,000, something like that every year. It's not a lot.
And do you get other income from other sources?
Well, we, as a nonprofit, it's up to us to fundraise.
Okay.
But we also, there is another source of revenue that is not on a regular basis, but it's about equipment maintenance that comes through also through the cable company as well, I believe. Is that?
Right. And then we do fundraising. We've gotten grants from some foundations to help outfit the studio and build the studio. and we try to do that on a consistent basis. But I think, like Carey and Bob said, the important thing to remember is that the cable subscribers don't pay for this.
Right.
This comes from the cable company itself, and then whatever fundraising we can do. So it's a very cost-effective way to have a access facility available to the residents of Auburn at really no cost to them.
And can I just throw one other thing, as long as we're on this subject? I also want to just give a shout out, because when we were, originally there was just the studio room that all the shows were broadcast out of. But then we built, as Bob mentioned, we built a studio just like this one, where people can make their own television shows. They don't have to use it. If they're an Auburn resident, they can submit material. But I also would like to give a shout out to the Emerson Foundation, because when we were looking for some matching funds to build the studio, Bob wrote a grant, and they came through, and it helped us to build it.
So are some of the photos we're going to see, because maybe we'll do this sooner than later, you're at downtown APT, are some of the photos of the studio that you have? This might be a good time, if they're ready in the control room, to show. But before, as they're getting ready to do that, how large a staff do you have? Two.
And they're each part-time.
Okay.
Both part-time, right?
And so what are their jobs?
Well, we have a wonderful young man named James Reichert, who
We work with here at the college?
Yes, and he was working with us at Auburn Public Theater, and we felt it was a good fit, and it is. He's wonderful, and he kind of acts as the manager of the station, and then Steve Gage, who's been there since the beginning, kind of supports.
I think he's been doing video since 1860.
Yes, yeah. Actually, when he did, you flipped through a book, and you just looked at it.
That was his first video.
Yeah.
So let's, if you will walk through, and maybe if you tell us what we're
sure.
seeing on the screen, we're going to have some photos of the new ARMA studio.
Well, that looks like us, but younger.
That's us with the green wall.
Okay.
Obviously.
Yeah, that's one of the.
So where is this located, by the way?
This is the studio in the lower level of Auburn Public Theater.
All right.
So the idea in the studio there is that you can do all kinds of different shows with any number of different people, from one to several, on a wide variety of topics. James, who's our executive director, is there to help out and train people. But the studio is designed.
So he doesn't act as the staff filming. He does
no.
not film people.
No, they're
The equipment in the facility.
right.
Okay.
The folks
teaches
who
them.
the folks who do the shows are responsible for running the shows
Okay.
and producing the shows. So is this sports?
Yes,
is
that was
Sports
the
Express?
sports.
That one there was SportsX.
Okay. Well,
And those, they had an interest in doing their own talk show.
Okay.
And they utilized the studio. And James is there. I mean, people just don't walk in and start setting up and running. This here is a new show that just started.
I know Andrea Fusco,
And
who teaches
Andrea
up
with
here.
the
She's on our
talking-
board.
Yeah, talking.
She's on your board. Okay.
Yeah, talking. She's on the board, and she's
Executive.
She's just started this show here, which was a great interview.
So they're
And
either
it's on wine
Coda
and-
or they're talking about wine.
Wine. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
All right.
So
Which is a sport.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Just
so
like-
the next photo here is, so is this somebody, this looks
I don't
renting
know.
it,
I
renting
did-
its equipment?
Well,
Yeah,
what I
this-
want to also say is we do a lot of internships
Okay.
That's what I
with
wanna
the
make
college and also with
Yeah.
Booker T. Washington.
Okay.
We have a group, and they come in and they learn. And so this may be one of the interns.
I think this is one
Next.
of the Booker T interns, and
Yeah.
it's he's working on the sports show.
Okay. Next
Let me
photo.
tell you something too. A footnote that's very important to us. That we want to build that internship, because a student at the high school, the Booker T. Washington, right on through to the college, is all connected. I mean, they can get into communications of whether they want to be in front of the camera, behind the camera, they want to be a writer, a producer, however, whatever they want, for free. All this equipment they can use, editing and
So
whatever,
I'm
for
assuming
free.
this is equipment that's in the studio?
Yeah,
That's
this
the
is
equipment,
yeah.
yes.
You're in the studio. You can see the green wall back there. That's
Yes.
the back wall of the studio. That's an intern from Keeler Community College who worked with James last year. Here she's editing some of the ARMA programs that'll later be aired on the channel.
Our next photo. It looks like the fire department, so I'm not sure.
Yeah,
so this
yeah,
would be
so,
somebody can take equipment out of.
Right.
Yes.
So the fire department requested a video, And I think this was a fire safety video.
Yes.
Looks like
And
a lot
so-
of little kids over there
Right.
on the right.
And
so
so
it's-
what happened was James assigned 2 of the interns to work with the fire department to create this fire
and then
safety
produce
video.
it.
Yes.
Next photo.
This year, as I did a show, I will periodically do a show like this here. And this one here, that's Tommaso. And he runs a bereavement group out of Sacred Heart Church. And I did a talk show, an interview with him, rather, on bereavement.
So does most of the equipment looking there, and does most of the equipment stay in the facility?
Yes.
Everything but the camera, and we
Yes.
do have cameras that people can, with training, can sign out.
Right.
But everything else
Is
is
there a
done.
fee for that?
No, it's all
Okay.
free.
No, it's all free.
But only for Auburn residents.
Okay.
If the other outlying areas sign on to the franchise, then they would be available to use the equipment. Right now, they can just view the product.
Okay.
Right.
Next
And that's
photo.
there is the control surface for
Yes.
doing a multi-camera studio production. And James, who's our executive director, will train access producers in how to use that so they can create their shows.
Next photo.
That's Bobby
Bob
Piron,
yeah,
talking music, and I think everybody knows who.
Do you have any idea of how this goes to this because of the number of shows? Do you have any idea how you do? Obviously, you rebroadcast Ormy King, you rebroadcast here for the college. Any idea how much programming goes out a week in a given week?
Oh, yeah. Well, we have requirements, don't we? That there has to be a
Yeah.
certain amount of hours.
I don't know. I don't know what that.
But between city council,
I think,
County
well,
legislature.
and don't forget, many of the shows rerun.
right?
But I think with the original shows and the shows that rerun, we're broadcasting about 50, 60 hours a week of programming.
Okay, so it's a chunk of time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
original programming
Yeah.
that comes out every week is probably 10 to 15 hours of original programming every week if you count the shows we do here, the city
Okay.
council meetings, the county legislator meetings, and then the other original shows that are produced.
All right. Next photo. That looks like here.
That's got to
No.
be.
Is it
I
not
don't-
here?
I don't know where this is.
Yeah, I think it's the lecture.
It's
isn't
T
it?
238, isn't it?
No.
No?
That's
Okay.
that's maybe at the high school, I think.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh, that
Or
could be.
BOCES, maybe.
Yeah,
Or
not familiar.
BOCES, yeah.
BOCES.
So students doing working on that. Next photo.
And Bobby Piron.
Yeah,
And,
and I think that's Nancy Kelly.
It is
who
Nancy
did,
Kelly.
so
Yeah.
he
Jazz
probably
singer?
did,
Yeah.
very good jazz singer, and I think he just did a show
So is
with
he a
her.
regular? I've seen your shows. I
Yeah.
picked him up on occasion when I'm flipping through.
Yeah, he's a regular.
So he's a regular
Yeah.
and has a set schedule that he
Yep.
uses. Okay.
Yeah.
Next photo. That's your show right
that's,
there.
That's
Lon?
me.
Is that Lon?
I'm talking with that one there. I'm talking with.
Lon?
Not with. What's his name? Duke from
Oh.
from Cuga Marketing.
Oh,
You
So
know.
you can see there that we have a variety of setups we can
Yeah.
use, because if you noticed on the Sports Express show, they had what looked like a news desk and 3 people. Here, Bob has a different type of set with 2, chairs, a table in the middle, so it's more a one-on-one conversation.
And so
we
not
have all
every
kinds of setups
show
we can do.
shows up with green. So that
Right.
green matting, could you describe what the green matting is
Right.
there and why it's there?
Yeah, the green is a chroma key backdrop so that we can instead of putting physical sets in ARMA, we can replace that green backdrop with an image of something else.
Okay. Next photo. Another interview.
Yeah. This is Bobby again.
All right. Next photo.
Here's
We'll just go through some of these.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Be like my dad and just
And that's,
flip through these.
that's one of our interns from the Cuba Community College, and he's performing in front of the green screen.
So you don't do judo
working-
down there. Okay.
No,
next
I
photo.
don't think he was doing judo.
no.
It looks
Next
like
photo.
it, though.
I think it's a
Or is that,
modif-
oh,
I think
that's
it's-
all right. That's our problem.
That's to give you an idea, you know.
So a couple of things. So besides the programming that you do, so if somebody wants to do programming down there, they need to contact James and set up a time to do that. And is there coursework you have to do that?
No, but he
before?
will train everybody.
Okay.
It's designed to be very easy to use and simple. So he will go over and he will make sure, and he is there. He just is not
He has
operating
other-
it. Yeah,
he has other
responsibilities.
Yeah.
So
And
so what?
we'll provide training in every aspect. So he can train someone to edit. He can train someone to take cameras out and shoot on location. and he can train people to
Yep.
set up the studio and do a show in the studio.
Just out of curiosity,
So-
do other localities have this type of facility?
Yes.
Yeah.
In New York State,
they do.
Ithaca is a good example.
Yeah, we
Ithaca's
won't-
got a very active public access facility. There's public access in Cortland, in the city of Syracuse, in Canandaigua.
Baldwinsville.
Baldwinsville, yes, is a very popular public
Baldwinsville, big
public access center.
Geneseo, you just mentioned.
Geneseo,
another big one down there.
Lockport is very big. Buffalo,
Yeah.
Rochester.
I've been in Massachusetts. I've been down there and take a look at the New England setup and talk with
Yes.
them.
Yeah.
And we've gone to their show. We go to their regional shows that they have. James just went to one back in
Yeah, the
December.
Alliance of Community
Alliance.
Media.
Yeah.
So when somebody, so do you take it in the format, I know it used to be here, we tape a show on Tuesday night, and on Thursday we do another show, and we drop off a CD-ROM.
Right.
Is that how most shows come? Do they come by thumb drive? I know there was one plan at one point to be able to email a show.
You can
to
do
be-
that.
You
Yeah.
can do that.
Yes.
Any
Yes.
digital delivery works.
And somebody should just go to the ARMA website and look at what's required
Absolutely.
for that.
Yes, all the requirements and all the information are on the ARMA website.
Okay, so the two questions that you most likely get quite often is, do you edit anything? If I was to go out there and submit a CD of me singing, which you most likely don't want, do you edit any of that?
I don't think that
No.
we do. No,
We're not allowed to.
Yeah.
Okay, how about length?
Length, it can be any length. What I would suggest, though, is if somebody has something like a 2 or 3 hour program, they're likely to be scheduled more towards the off hours
So
because
does
we're not going to
James
have
do
them.
the scheduling? So he looks
Yes.
at blocks, so he knows that, for example, from 5 to 7 on Saturdays and Sundays,
Right.
the college programming is going on. Friday nights at, I think it's 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, the city council is going to run, the county
Right.
legislature.
Right.
Yeah.
Those are set, and then he schedules around
Yes.
that
Yeah,
particular.
usually. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We get this question all the time. The show is being shot on Tuesday. It will be shown on Spectrum today on Tuesday. But if you're a Verizon Fios customer, you don't get to see it on Saturday or Sunday. Why is that?
Well, that's because the college has only a connection to Spectrum,
Okay.
whereas ARMA has a connection to both Spectrum and Verizon,
Okay.
Fios.
So what type of equipment can somebody take out? What type of cameras do you
They
have?
They have some nice small Sony cameras with tripods, lights, and microphones. A
Do you
nice
get
gear
much
bag.
many requests for that?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, we
I
do
think,
get
yeah.
fair-
I mean,
fair
it's
amount.
not every day, but I would say on
Yeah.
a weekly basis.
During the
we
course
do
of a
it.
year,
Yeah.
yes.
And there's no fee for that, but what happened? Do people have to put? I guess I'm looking from the financial point.
Right.
No deposit.
No.
No deposit.
No,
Nope.
it's
Do
free.
you ever have a problem with returns?
Nope.
We haven't
have
so
not.
far, but that previous, when I mentioned previously about that second amount that sometimes comes in for maintenance, in case anything should happen to the equipment or in case we have to upgrade, that's what that money is for.
Right.
So your basic franchise fee is for, it mostly goes towards the staff. And then after that, capital equipment.
And so we said there was no fee for charges for taking out equipment. Again, if you're a city resident, which I'm assuming you have to show your license or some form of identification.
Right.
There's no fee for training.
Yeah.
Right.
Is there a fee to get things put on?
No.
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 How about if you were from somebody like from the
can't.
town of Owaska?
You can't.
just can't.
You
Okay.
can't.
You got to
Everything
find
is
somebody.
free and otherwise, but it's limited to the citizens that are part of the franchise agreement.
Right.
So-
There is such a thing as leased access, but that's something that's run by the cable company, not by the public access facility. By law, we can't charge for public access.
So we said the facilities are downtown. I think if anybody goes by on Genesee Street now, they know there's some construction
Sure.
going over at the Auburn Public Theater.
Yeah.
So if we could take 30 seconds or so just to say, what are you doing?
Well, let me do this. Let me say how it relates to ARMA.
That's where I'm going.
Okay, because one of the best things about the renovation and the relationship with ARMA is that if you're looking at our building, on the very far right, there is now a new door, and it will be a proprietary entrance for ARMA
From Genesee Street.
from Genesee Street,
Okay.
so they don't have to necessarily come into an Auburn Public Theater.
Right now, that's all covered by plastic.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Well, actually, it was Yes, it mostly is. It was just, they moved to the other side, but you'll see the outline of the door.
So where are you in your process for renovations, just real quickly?
I'm right here. Oh, you
Okay.
mean where the...
I know you don't have a hammer in your hand.
Yeah, no. We are...
Or sharp instruments, but that's the difference.
Well, we're working very fast. I know this is about ARMA, so I'll just say that we're doing our project in phases because most of our funding, we had a wonderful capital campaign, but most of the funding is coming from grants from the state.
And you're a relatively large downtown revitalization.
Correct, and that all needs to be spent, well, not all of it, but the money needs to be spent before you get it back.
So you're all done with your fundraising on this particular project?
For the time being, we'll see, and there's always cost overruns and things, but we're on track to finish the first part of the project in May.
And that's your cafe?
It'll be the cafe in the front where the law office was, and it'll be the whole facade of the building that will be redone, including the door for ARMA.
Are there other changes to ARMA downstairs?
There will be. It'll just look nice. It'll be nicer and it'll be secure, so that if Auburn Public Theater is not operating, people can still operate ARMA in a secure way, and vice versa. So things can be independent.
I'm going to look at the future. If we could take the last 2 or 3 minutes to talk about this. We obviously talked about other contracts with the towns if they would like to get on. But what's the vision for ARMA? What are your future plans at this stage?
Oh, Bobby. They keep on growing. What I'd really like to see is I like to see our internship program just continue to increase, because I think it's an absolutely great opportunity for a student, again, whether high school, whether BOCES, to work in conjunction with the college, and we can connect the dots for free. They can learn
Yeah,
all
so
this.
there's no cost for those things for intern. And they're
None.
both high school,
None.
BOCES, and here at the college,
No.
correct?
Right.
And the people like you have here, and James that we talked about, a professional that know the business extremely well. A student can learn and connect the dots. I mean, take a look at people that came out of Megan Kelly out of Syracuse, Al Roker out of Oswego. I don't know who's some of the other ones that come out of this area. David Muir out of Syracuse. So it can happen, and they can go right from here to the college, and then the world's open to them.
But
For free.
But the next step for you is to either, the cable companies are not going to give you more money necessarily unless they get more
Not
subscribers.
necessarily. I mean, it's about renegotiating. It's about, and Steve and I
Right.
were just talking about that. The two low-hanging fruits are our own fundraising. We are a 501c3, so to do our own fundraising, and then also to encourage outlying areas to become part of the contract.
Do you have other fundraisers coming soon?
We're
or?
planning them.
We're planning them, yes.
Nothing
We're in the
planned
planning
at the
stages
moment.
now.
Yeah.
Once the building is done,
Yeah.
then we will have another fundraiser kickoff and everything on the new facility and what have you. More importantly, the bottom line is I opened up, my opening statement was, this is your local TV station.
So-
Nobody's going to cover this area in the news and whether it be public education or government better than ARMA. I'd like to see producers, what we used to call when we were growing up as kids, in the wards, in the
Okay.
neighborhoods, but to see a producer in each ward to create their own program about their own backyard, regardless of what it is. And there's so many opportunities and so many ideas that are sitting in the library that we're constantly looking at to build on.
And there's one other thing I
Sure.
can throw in there is that one of the things that we've talked about, but we really haven't thrown a lot of energy at yet, is to provide programming through our website that repeats what's on the air, so that people who are not in Auburn anymore or not in Auburn for the season can still view the programming on Auburn.
And that's why you, right here, through your YouTube, all
Right.
these shows
All these shows are
immediately
archived.
archived. So if somebody wants to, is a snowbird in Florida, they can see this tonight
Yes.
anytime.
Right.
Okay.
And that's where ARM is headed to.
Yes.
Because remember, it's Auburn Regional Media Access. And so we really do want to encompass all forms of media and give the citizens of Auburn, residents of Auburn, access to be media creators across the whole realm of media.
Not to concentrate on the money issue, but
No.
you are a 501c3.
Correct.
So if somebody wants to donate because they like your program, or they like Army King, or they like some of the things that they see,
Right.
they can write a check, a tax deductible, to the extent of the law.
Correct.
Tax deduction they might get out of it is a donation to ARMA.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Not
that's
only
correct.
that, but go back to the Emerson, and when they made the donation, not only do you make a donation, but we'll give you a report what's being done with that money. You'll see the proof of performance. So when you make a donation to ARMA, you will see the results of that dollar bill that you donated. And that's very important because today people ask for money all over the place. You make a donation, then you don't hear nothing else. What happened? Where'd the money go? Here, we will show you where the money went, whether it be in equipment, whether it be an operation, structure, whatever it is.
Yeah, and I think probably maybe the most important thing to say in this program is that what we're looking to do is build up that core of citizen producers, access producers,
Yep.
local residents who want to produce shows and get them on social media, get them on cable, and express their ideas and express their interests. That's what makes a public access station great, when there's commitment and involvement with community producers. So we welcome them all and we'll train them all.
And I'll tell you this, that the key pool of a producer are the people that are retired. They have so much experience, so much knowledge, and they say, well, what am I going to do next? Where do I go next? And this is a great opportunity for them. Look at Bobby Piron. Look at Army King.
Right. So we encourage people to go to the ARMA website to get more information on that.
ARMATV.org.
ARMATV.com.
.org.
Sorry. And again, we want to thank President Bob Fennerfeather of the ARMA Board, their Vice President Steve Keeler, as well as their Treasurer Carey Eidel for joining us to talk about ARMA. And we do encourage you to go to their site and view how you can access that, but also watch many programs that are broadcast through there. We'll be back on Tuesday. This will be shown on ARMA this weekend, but we'll be back on Tuesday with Auburn Superintendent of Schools Jeff Perazzola. He'll be talking about the budget prep that he's putting together for the budget that will go before voters in May. In the coming weeks, we'll have representatives from the Keeler County Health Department talking about both the issue of lead, smoking and vaping, which has become a very big issue in central New York and New York State, as well as women's health. We'll also have Director Melody Brooks here next Thursday. She's presenting 3 plays here at Keeler Community College on Friday, February 28th. And then on the 29th, she is having her play Suffragettes from the Stage being put here in the Bisgrove. This spring, we also hope to bring you several forums, including the Auburn Large School District. We'll hopefully have the candidates for the special election for the 50th Senate District. And also, right now, we have several of the Democratic candidates running for the 24th Congressional District to face off incumbent John Katko, who will be here at the end of April. Before we go, though, we would like to let you know that you can send us your ideas for future guests or send us questions to Inside Government or Beyond the Front Page. You can do that at COZGUYTHO@AOL.com or Inside Government, 141 Dunning Avenue, Auburn, New York. I'm Guy Cosentino for Keeler Community College. We want to thank you for watching. We hope you have a good night and have a great tomorrow, and we will see you back here in the studio on Tuesday.